I used to believe that betrayal announced itself loudly, with shouting, slammed doors, and dramatic endings, but that belief shattered the day my own family abandoned me without raising their voices even once, because real betrayal is quiet, deliberate, and terrifyingly calm. It looks you in the eye, lets you believe you are safe, lets you pay, lets you trust, and then removes everything you rely on without warning. My name is Lena Hartwell, and I was 39 years old when I learned that love tied to convenience is not love at all. 6 months before that moment, my marriage had ended, not with chaos or infidelity, but with exhaustion, the slow death of effort, two people becoming strangers while sharing the same space, and when I finally walked away I told myself I would rebuild carefully, responsibly, without depending on anyone else. But my family saw my divorce differently. To them it wasn't a loss, it was a vulnerability they could manage. They called it concern, they called it support, they said they were just looking out for me, but what they really wanted was control over my decisions, my money, my future. When my mother suggested a family trip to Europe to reconnect, I ignored the unease in my chest. When my father casually suggested I cover most of the expenses because I was the one without kids, I transferred the money without protest. When my younger brother joked that at least my divorce freed up some cash for the family, I laughed, even though something in me shrank every time. 10 days across Rome and Paris felt like walking on thin glass, every conversation filled with subtle judgment, every silence heavy with expectations. I was too sensitive, too guarded, too independent. They repeated those words until they felt like labels. And by the final morning, standing inside Frankfurt Airport preparing to return home, I felt hollow in a way sleep cannot fix. The terminal was bright and cold, all glass, steel, and echoes, and as we stood at the check-in counter my phone vibrated in my hand. A banking notification flashed across the screen, an outgoing transfer from my savings account. My stomach dropped instantly because I hadn't authorized anything. I turned to my mother and asked quietly, "Did you move money from my savings?" She didn't even hesitate, she just said we needed to. "Your father's situation isn't resolved yet." My father didn't look up, my brother sighed dramatically, and I felt heat rush through my chest. "I told you I can't keep doing this," I said. "I'm reorganizing my finances, I need to think about my own future." "You're being selfish," my father replied flatly. "No," I said, my voice tight, "I'm being responsible." The airline agent politely asked for our passports and return tickets, and my mother smoothly took my passport from my hand, smiling as if nothing was wrong, saying it was easier if she handled the documents. I hesitated, then let it go, because I had spent my entire life letting things go. The printer hummed, boarding passes slid onto the counter, 3 passes, not 4. I stared, waiting for mine. The agent frowned at her screen and said 1 ticket was cancelled earlier today. My heart slammed into my ribs. "Which ticket?" I asked. She looked up at me. "Lena Hartwell." I turned slowly, my mouth dry. "What?" My father finally faced me and said calmly, "We cancelled it." The world tilted around me. "You had no right," I whispered. "You refused to cooperate," he replied. "You're not thinking clearly, we can't risk you flying home like this." My brother crossed his arms, adding, "You've been unstable since the divorce, paranoid, making reckless decisions." I laughed once, sharp and hollow. "By canceling my ticket and stranding me in another country." My mother sighed as if I were a burden. "You'll calm down, you can sort yourself out, we're doing this for your own good." I reached for my passport. "Give it back." "We're late," she said, turning away, "we'll talk later." And then they picked up their bags and walked toward security, calm, coordinated, not rushed, not angry, like this was just another logistical decision. I followed them, panic crawling up my spine, but they didn't slow down, they didn't look back. My phone was gone, my charger with it, my passport in my mother's purse, my return ticket erased with a few clicks. At the security line they disappeared completely, swallowed by the crowd, and I stood there frozen as the realization settled in, slow and sickening, that this wasn't an argument gone wrong, it was a plan executed perfectly. I rushed to the airline desk, trying to explain everything at once, my words spilling over each other, but without identification or a ticket I was no one. Security approached politely but firmly and asked me to step aside. Humiliation burned hotter than fear as I moved to the edge of the terminal, my thoughts scrambling for solutions that didn't exist, when a shadow stopped beside me and a calm voice said quietly, "Don't turn around, just listen." I froze. "You have no boarding pass, no phone, no passport," the voice continued evenly. "In about 2 minutes security will escort you out." I looked up and saw a man standing beside me, sharply dressed, composed, completely unaffected by the chaos around him. He met my eyes without pity. "Pretend you're with me," he said, "my driver is waiting." "Why?" I whispered. "Because what they did wasn't just cruel," he replied softly, "it was strategic." Security took a step closer, and without thinking I slipped my hand through his arm. No one stopped us. The doors slid open, cold air rushed in, a black car waited outside, the driver opening the door silently. I got in, my heart pounding, and as the door closed and the car pulled away I looked back at the glowing terminal behind us. Somewhere inside, my family boarded their flight, convinced they had put me in my place, completely unaware that they had just lost control of the story. The car merged smoothly into traffic, and only when the terminal disappeared behind us did my breath finally break free in a shaky exhale. My fingers were still locked around the fabric of his coat, like letting go might drop me back into that glass prison. The man didn't rush me, he didn't ask questions, he simply waited until my breathing slowed, then spoke. "You're safe for now," he said, not reassuringly but factually, and for the first time that day someone's words felt grounded in reality. I stared straight ahead at the city rushing past, my thoughts tangled and raw. "Why did you help me?" I asked quietly. He turned his head just enough for me to see his profile, sharp, focused, not curious like most people are when they smell chaos. "Because I recognized the move," he replied. "What move?" I whispered. "The controlled isolation," he said, "canceling access, documents, money, communication, framing you as unstable so any resistance sounds irrational." My throat tightened. "How do you know that?" He gave a faint humorless smile. "Because I've defended people from it, and because I've used it once before." The honesty startled me. The car slowed, passing through a private security gate into an underground garage. The driver parked and stepped out without a word. The man opened his door, then looked at me. "This is where you decide," he said. "You can get out and find a consulate, report everything, rebuild slowly, or you can come upstairs and hear what I'm offering. No pressure, no drama, just information." I swallowed, the air in my lungs felt thin and sharp. My family would already be spinning a story, I knew it, saying I panicked, refused help, disappeared. My reputation, my finances, my autonomy, all of it would be stripped piece by piece if I didn't act. I stepped out of the car. Inside the building everything was quiet, controlled, minimalist, glass, concrete, warm light, not a trace of the chaos still echoing in my chest. We entered a private elevator, and as the doors slid shut my knees finally weakened. I gripped the rail, embarrassed, but he pressed a button, stopping the lift. "Sit," he said calmly, handing me a bottle of water. "Drink slowly, you're in shock." I obeyed, the cool water grounding me. When I could speak again I asked, "My family thinks I'm unstable, they've been hinting at it for months." He nodded as if confirming a theory. "That's why they cancelled your ticket. Abandonment accelerates dependence. They'll say you ran, had a breakdown, refused assistance. It creates legal leverage." My stomach dropped. "Legal leverage?" I asked. "Conservatorship, asset access, control of medical narratives, yes," he said without sugarcoating, "and they've likely already contacted an attorney." When the elevator resumed it opened into a private residence overlooking the city, all steel, glass, and quiet power. He gestured for me to sit again, then finally introduced himself. "Adrian Cole, 44, Investment Advisory Board, media exposure, and currently under internal scrutiny questioning my judgment." He said it like a report, not a confession. "And why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because our problems solve each other," he replied. I frowned, confused. You need stability publicly, he continued, someone competent beside me, someone the media can't dismiss as ornamental, and you need immediate protection, narrative control, and a wall between you and your family. Silence stretched, but it wasn't empty, it was heavy with possibility. Are you asking me to pretend to be with you? I asked. Not pretend, he corrected, be present, appear stable, intelligent, composed, which you already are. I shook my head, processing. This is insane, you barely know me. And that's why it works, he said. No history, no leverage, no emotional debt, just a contract. The word steadied me. What kind of contract? I asked. 1-year public partnership, marriage on paper if required, legal shielding, access to my attorneys, financial autonomy, and full exit clauses anytime you choose. I stared at him. 1 year. 1 year, he confirmed calmly. In return discretion, professionalism, and mutual benefit. No ownership, no obedience, no control. I stood and walked to the window. City lights spread below like circuitry, alive and endless. My family thought leaving me there would terrify me into submission, I said quietly. Adrian's voice was steady. They miscalculated. I turned back, something hard and clear forming inside me. If I do this, I control my narrative, no fabricated breakdown, no mental health statements. He nodded. Agreed, and any attempt by your family to interfere will be met with immediate legal resistance from my team. I extended my hand. Then let's make sure they regret underestimating me. The agreement moved faster than I expected, not because it was rushed, but because it was prepared, like he had been waiting for the right variable to appear, and once I signed my name the panic that had ruled my body for days finally loosened its grip. Within 48 hours a press release framed as a private civil ceremony appeared online, tasteful, controlled, uncontroversial. My family learned the same way the public did, through headlines that said investment leader Adrian Cole marries consultant Lena Hartwell in quiet overseas ceremony, and I imagined the confusion spreading across their faces as the narrative slipped out of their hands. My phone was replaced, my passport recovered through legal channels, my accounts frozen then resecured under my sole authority with oversight that answered only to me. When my parents finally tried to reach me it wasn't with concern, it was with anger masked as worry, voicemails accusing, messages questioning my mental state, demanding explanations, but every word they sent only strengthened the record Adrian's attorneys built, documenting coercion, attempted financial abuse, and unlawful restriction of movement. 3 weeks later the first formal notice arrived at my parents' home, cease and desist, unauthorized financial activity, and interference with an adult citizen's travel rights. My brother tried to play the mediator, calling from a borrowed number, saying this had gone too far, that lawyers didn't need to be involved, that family matters should stay private, but the moment he suggested I authorize a joint review of my finances I ended the call without a word. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was powerful. Months passed, and what began as an arrangement settled into something steady and respectful. We shared schedules, not secrets, dinners, not confessions, and in that structure I rebuilt myself stronger than before. I returned to consulting on my terms, spoke at conferences, wrote under my own name, and every appearance reinforced the image my family tried to erase: competent, stable, independent. Behind the scenes Adrian never crossed a boundary, never asked for gratitude, never rewrote the agreement. When media pressure peaked he stood beside me without spectacle, when it faded he stepped back without resentment. One night, almost a year later, sitting across from him in the same glass room overlooking the city, I realized something unexpected. I wasn't surviving anymore, I was choosing. I told him the year was almost up. He nodded, then asked, "What do you want?" I smiled, not nervously, not cautiously, but with clarity. "I want my life." He raised his glass. "Then you already have it." The final message from my mother arrived weeks later, not apologetic, not reflective, just cautious, asking if we could talk without lawyers. I didn't respond. Some doors don't need to be slammed, they just need to stay closed, because the most satisfying revenge isn't destruction or humiliation, it's becoming untouchable in every way that matters. If this story made you feel something, if you've ever been underestimated, silenced, or controlled, don't scroll away. Hit like so this reaches more people who need it. Subscribe for real stories about power, resilience, and reclaiming control, and comment your thoughts below, because your voice matters more than you think.